Hi and welcome to another Wednesday evening chat with Louise. A little bit longer format this evening because I did miss last week and I will be missing next week as well. Lots on with busy time being summer. So I hope you're enjoying the hot weather and I hope you had a lovely summer solstice. I don't know about you, but I always feel that sort of the tipping point of the year and things are going to get better from then on. So if you've been wondering about a lot of the things that are going on in the world at the minute, and it has been scary times if you buy into the fear, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but it got me back thinking about, what are we doing here? What's our purpose and all that. So I thought this time we'd have a really good look at timelines, different dimensions, soul contracts, the law of attraction, and how I'm working through it and where my understanding is. And this is when all my subscribers, a few that I've got, all leave in flocks because they think I'm an absolute nutter. And I think that's important because I think sometimes we keep our thoughts and beliefs to ourselves because we don't want to be judged by people. And then, do you know what? I think I'm at an age now where I really don't care what people think of me anymore. And this is who I am. And I love learning about things, and it doesn't mean that my opinion won't change, and I will very much looking forward to other people's opinions in the comments. Obviously the ones about me being a nutter, you don't have to bother putting those if that's okay. So where do we begin? Often people talk about intuition, our oversoul, our higher self, that little voice in the back of your head, whatever it is. So for me, source is what some people call God, energy. It's kind of the whole bit where it all began or is. I don't think it's began, I think it's just is. It's a source of energy and we are all energy. We talked about that briefly other weeks where just because something looks solid, it's just vibrating at a different frequency. So the world around us is what we perceive, but we are very much all energy. It's a bit like when you look at the Matrix and they've got all that coding behind them. If you think about it like that, then it's kind of like being in the game. And so when things are getting frightening or worrying, if we kind of get a bit detached and go, it's just part of the game, suddenly life can be a little bit easier, I feel, to live with. But going back to source, we believe that we're all energy and we are a soul, if you like. So, and a soul isn't within us, the soul is around us. It's the energy that is us. And this is just like the physical skin, the body that we live in while we're having a human experience. We also believe, or I believe, that we don't ever leave source. This is just our energy coming down to have this experience. And that, if you like to put it in a sort of simple way, that we are still in source, and when we are asleep, our dream is this reality. And when we go to sleep in this life, we go back to source, where we kind of check in with the people, the guides and everything like that. And then we awaken and we do it all again the next day. So I like that idea. I like the idea that I go back. I like that idea we have a bit of check-in. I probably can see him going, what are you doing? And and then the fact is, obviously you don't always remember that because you then wake up the next day to have another go at what you've signed up to do. But then we look at timelines and people talk about past lives, but supposedly time is just a constraint that humans have invented, if you like. So there is a belief that all time is happening now, this minute, consecutively. And equally, that every time we make a decision, every second, that's a timeline, that's a timeline, that's a timeline, opening up. So like you go out of your driveway and you turn left, another one of you turns right, another one goes and a car goes into you. There's all these different thoughts about timelines. So how can that happen consecutively? Well, the idea is that as a soul, our oversoul is like a hologram. So if you split that up cut it up into lots and lots of little sections. If you do that with a hologram, then each little section will have that same picture, if you like, as the whole. So your facets are all the different parts of your soul that are living other experiences in other lives consecutively. So if you have a deja vu, or you feel that you've had another life in another time, that's quite possible because you're actually living that in that time now. And there are people that astral project. I myself have had dreams where I have visited myself in other times, living different lives. It wasn't me, but it was me, and that's the best way I can describe it. And they weren't all glamorous and they weren't all pretty either. In fact, one of them was really funny. But anyway, I don't really want to talk about that. But and it's interesting how friends in this life, or acquaintances or people you know in this lives, will appear in other ones in different roles, and they might not look the same, but you know their energy and know that they are. So yeah, it can be quite exhausting when you're traveling every night when you sleep and not actual sleeping. So sometimes it was one of the teachers I work with just said to me, you can say no and switch off. So that's quite good, because I do feel, and I know a lot of you will feel the same, that we've gone through this huge energetic shift at the moment. And so there's been a lot of activity and a lot of things happening. I do believe we have a team that work with us, that help and guide us in this earthly experience. And I believe everybody has it, and I believe everybody has the ability to ask for help. I mean, how many times have you gone, oh, please, you know, and just something has turned up. Not necessarily what we wanted, but what we needed has appeared. And I think that is very powerful, that yes, there is help and you're never on your own. So you could live on your own and never see anybody, but you still have a team, you still have people. So that's kind of nice to know you're never ever alone. So we look at all these timelines that are happening, and if they could be within loops, because obviously, you know, so is history what we know it is as well? This is where I go on. So I say, any comments on this, I'd love it. Because then I look at that and I go, that's great. So in that life, I was in Egypt. In that life, I was wandering around in England in the Stone Age. In that life, and you know, and then there's lives within, like parallel lives that are now. So that can be an interesting experience, that you are living relatively near you, looking exactly like you, but still living a different life and being a different facet of you. And the good thing about facets is you can experience the glorious good parts of life, but equally you're going to be a horrible person in another one. And that is because there has to be balance. And I don't believe that if you can experience, you wouldn't know what good was, because that would be all there was all the time. I think the aspiration is for good, which is really just pure love. That is really what the essence of Source is about. Aspiring to be within that purest form, but having to have all these experiences to be able to get to that. And a lot of people are talking at the minute about the 3D and the 5D and all these different dimensions, and it's almost becoming a little bit like, oh well, I'm in the 5D, so I'm better than you, mere mortals in the 3. And I just think we've lost that a little bit there. That's ego talking. That's not about being the best you can be. And I know people have talked about 2 major timelines that are happening with the 3D and the 5D, and that really we should be along the middle and accepting both sides. Again, that balance. But that's everybody's different journeys, and by being judgmental, then that's my ego coming into play. But what are dimensions then? And it's like people talk about the higher dimensions, if you like, so above the 5, you know, there's meant to be angelic realms, there's meant to be, people talk about, there's a lady I've watched on YouTube that talks to Sasquatch, or as people know, Bigfoot, but apparently they don't like being called Bigfoot. And there is a belief that we as a species would have carried on and been the Sasquatch. But in Egypt, the Anunnaki, who are extraterrestrial from other planets, are meant to have come down to harvest gold, and because they needed it for their planet. And they then genetically mutated the species of human that were on the planet at that time. So we are, as the humans that we are now, are meant to have the Anunnaki lines. And there's a lot more to that. I don't know what I feel about that. I found it interesting. I find everything interesting. Anything that looks at things from a different angle. So I'm not saying any of this is right or wrong. I'm just saying, probably read this week. This is what I've learned. What bit resonates? I don't know. But that was quite interesting to know that the Sasquatch, they're interdimensional. So they were attracted to woods and quiet spaces now, and to gentle. They're highly intelligent, and they'll show themselves sometimes and then they go. And then you talk about things like the dragons and fairies and elves and all these different things are all meant to be on different dimensions. And it's as your energy changes, then you have that possibility to see interdimensionally, and the fact that they move in and out sometimes. I don't know how I feel about that, but what I do know is, where did the idea of these come from? So if we can perceive something, then surely that has to have been, what is imagination? That's what I'm saying, really. So if you can imagine something, where did that come from? How can you imagine it if it wasn't a reality in another dimension? I don't know, quite I like that thought. Always wanted a dragon since Game of Thrones. Honestly, Khaleesi. Anyway, so that's kind of dimensions, with other going up and up till you achieve that state of complete and utter love that is the universal, the source of everything. But meanwhile, we're here for a reason. And I do believe we're here for a reason. So this is where I get confused. If you're not already confused, this is where I get confused. Soul contracts. So there is a belief that before we come back and we choose this particular experience, and we say, right, we're going to come back this time, and I'll have a life of poverty. People will die early or do things. I do believe that the contract is what we get, if you like. And I believe there's a reason to everything. And I know people don't understand why children are abused or murdered or things like that, or all the horrific things that happen in the world. But whether that's lesson for the soul or lesson for the people that it affects, I don't know. I just don't know. But let's say, as a part of my soul contract, that I have signed up to come and live a very simple life, and to be giving, not to have any wealth in my life. And then along comes a little clip saying about the law of attraction. And I look at that and go, oh, I can manifest lots of money and that will make my life easier. What happens if your soul contract says you can't, the law of attraction says you can? I'm guessing somewhere along there is free will. And I know that there is chaos. What is it? Can you override the soul contract? So you won your lottery. If you did, would that then defeat the whole entire object of you being here and you'd have to go back and do it again? Can you not break a soul contract? I know I've heard of people, there's supposedly markers along the way of a timeline that you can go, your free will allows you to go in and out, as long as you sort of catch up on your markers, get yourself back on track, and off you go again on your free will. And then if you allow chaos to come in, then it can push you off and then you can manage to get back. But should free will override that? I don't know. So that's where I am on this. I'd love to know your thoughts, your theories. on soul contracts, timelines, dimensions, law of attraction. Because I do believe in, the law of attraction when it comes to things like wanting a car parking space. I'll just go, right, I'm going there today, and I know it's going to be really busy, but I'd like a space right outside. And it always works. That always works. So is that then just the belief system that I don't believe I'm worthy of winning the lottery, even though I would love to share it and give it to people? But then my thought comes in, so if I won millions tomorrow and I shared it out with lots and lots of people, am I affecting their soul contracts? So then timelines come into play, and sometimes you can be wanting to manifest and change things in your life, but if it's taking everybody else's contracts to fall into place or timelines to fall into place, God, I tell you what, I don't think I want to be flipping a guide, would you? Can you imagine? They must get together in little meetings and go, right, can you get your person over there to do this week, because this one's got to do this week and this one's got to do that. No, flipping it, you've got to have great organisational skills. I think I'll be going back for processing and a bit of telling off, and probably get sent back to have another crack at it. Anyway, I'm going to leave that thought with you. If you've got this far, credit to you for bearing with me. If you think I'm a nutter, it's quite possibly true, and maybe that was my part of my soul contract. Anyway, love to you all, and I hope you're enjoying this amazing weather. Thank you. Bye.